The Lötschen Valley in Switzerland is haunted. The rest of Switzerland is cheery, all cuckoo clocks and chocolate, but the Lötschental is dark, a spooky valley between oppressive mountain peaks. Walking sticks are everywhere in Switzerland, but the ones from the Lötschental are twisted and carved with tortured, devilish faces. The whole place feels eerie. Who would want to go there? Me. Above the Lötschental is a trail system that ascends the high country and stretches from one mountain hut, or Bergerhütte, across the glaciers to the next one. The mountain huts are maintained by Swiss hiking clubs and they're open to anyone. What an adventure! To start in the Lötschental, climb the trail, sleep in a mountain hut, and trek across frozen glaciers to the next hut by myself. I was free from studies for a week and was eager to learn something not in books. I took the train from Zurich with my new backpack, sleeping bag, food for a week, and warm clothes. My train car was empty, except for a drunken woman who hung onto a strap and kept proclaiming, "I am Austria." Okay, then. I was America, invulnerable, or so I thought. The train reached the Lurchental in early afternoon. I had plenty of time to get to the mountain hut before it became seriously dark, and the mountain huts, unlike the inns in town, are free. So I started up the trail. At first, it felt really good. The air was crisp, but not too cold. The snow underfoot was packed, but not slippery. It was 1975, and I was young and strong. The path curved up and away from the small town below. I began to pass little crosses made of sticks and string, crafted by shepherds who spend months in the mountains alone with their flocks. I'd read that in their lonely lives, shepherds occasionally experienced extreme terror for no apparent reason. In the grip of this mountain panic, they would sometimes act irrationally. The local custom was to make crosses for protection and comfort. Invulnerable, I smiled at the crosses as I passed. It was beginning to snow, lightly at first, nothing serious. The twilight would last for another hour at least, plenty of time to reach the hut safely. My footprints began to disappear behind me as the snow fell more heavily. Up and up the winding path threaded its way along the mountainside, the increasingly steep descents only partially obscured by low bushes. It was getting dark, the path was still visible, and I was in no real danger. I reached the mountain hut. It was unlocked as promised. Inside that sturdy wooden shelter were blankets, firewood, and emergency rations. It was astonishingly quiet. I could almost taste the quiet. All I needed to do was put some logs in the fireplace, light them, warm up my dinner, unroll my sleeping bag, and nestle in. This was the adventure I had planned, and here I was, having it. I signed the guest log and noticed no visitors had been there for months. It was fully dark outside now, a blackness unrelieved by any shaft of human created light. I could feel my heart beating harder. The very walls of the hut, those protecting me from the snowstorm, seemed somehow threatening. But there was no real threat. The only possible danger would be if I tried to go back down the mountain in the dark, in the snow, where fresh drifts obscured the path. And yet, I found myself putting my boots back on, packing my things, and going to the door. I was aware that this was absolute idiocy. Nothing was wrong with my original plan. Crossing the glaciers at that time of year wouldn't have been hazardous, but going down the mountain alone at night in a snowstorm, that was dangerous. Stupid. It would be easy to stumble off the path and fall down a ravine or a cliff, and no one in the world would know where I was. Nevertheless, I closed the shelter door behind me. Some weird force seemed to be pushing me. I had to get out of there, away from what? But I had no choice. At first, I tried to make myself walk slowly, using my walking stick to test the ground to make sure I was still on the path. But I was beyond reason. I broke two branches from a pine tree and held them in a cross as I plummeted down the path, stumbling, wiping snow from my eyes, and straining to see. 4 hours later, I was down. I pounded on the door of an inn and got a place to stay for the night. Never mind the cost. I had wanted to learn something on this trip. I did. I am not invulnerable, after all.